Yeah.
Because as a photographer, you're just allowed a little more access to the client, to the family, because you're doing the photos after the ceremony.
Yeah, yeah.
You're doing the stuff before, you're doing the portraits also. And so you're just engaging more.
You were lost into me. You were lost into me.
All right, so welcome to the Weddings and Wine podcast. I am your host, DJ Chosen, and man, I am here with another special guest, and this one is special because this is my photographer, right?
Yes,
like
sir.
this is the guy that has taken all of the amazing shots for my engagement, my wedding, my big day. Mr. Standby Productions himself, Corey Hanks. What's up, Corey?
What's up, man?
Man, it's good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too.
You know what's crazy? So I, in preparation for the episode, I'm going to let everybody in on a little inside joke. So, in preparation for the episode, I picked out this nice, crimson shirt, and I was ironing and all the kind of stuff, and then I realized it had a stain on it, and so here I am stuck in this blue shirt.
So
and,
unfortunate.
Yeah, and it's probably like a rule somewhere where you're probably not supposed to even wear like this pattern on camera or whatever. But it's nice to see you got on the red shoes, so I appreciate that.
Oh man, let me hide them.
So the inside joke is he is one of the amazing members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And I am not. And so, we always joke back and forth, man. But this guy, he is amazing at what he does. And so we're going to get right into it, man.
Let's do it.
I'm going to pour this wine. We're sipping on some red today. And I want you to tell everybody a little bit about your backstory, man. How did you get into the wedding industry?
So, man, the first wedding I filmed was actually a girl I went to college with, and we were pretty good friends in college, and I knew she was getting married, and that was like about 3 years into the business, and so I reached out to her and I was like, hey, like, what's up? Let me film your wedding, and so she was cool with it being my first one. Man, if I could show y'all that, you'd be like, yeah, bro, it's a big difference. Because that was back in 2014.
Okay.
So we're almost 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years of improvement.
Yeah. And, in quality of cameras and all that. So, so it started then, and, it just kind of snowballed. I got other people that I went to college with, which is Stephen F. Austin State University. Mm-hmm. And, I just been so thankful. People trusted me.
Yeah.
And, because I started my passion for videography and photos started back in high school.
Okay.
And I had an amazing teacher at Hightower High School. Ted
Shout out to all the educators out there.
Yeah, definitely, man. Especially Ted Irving. And he made a big impact on my life.
That's what's up.
And so, from there, I was in the media classes there. So 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, I'm working with video equipment, cameras. And so did that in college, and we kept it going after that.
So you talked a little bit about, you touched on it a little bit, the photo and video. So you do both?
Yep, I do both.
Okay. And is it you specifically do both, or do you have a team for your company? Like, how does that kind of work?
So I have a few solid people that I can reach out to that is always down to help me, that's part of the team. And I'm able to, if somebody obviously, for a wedding hires me for both photo and video, because I'll be honest, the way I got into offering both is I was tired of passing up on money.
Okay.
And that was, so that was maybe around 2017.
Yeah.
And it was so many people that were like, do you do photos too? And I was like, no, I only do video, unfortunately. And so it went from that. I was just like, I can do photography. It's just, I've always just been acclimated and always pushed the video side.
Yeah. And that's what, and I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
I was going to say, like, I think that was probably part of it too, right? Like, you have, you know, as a entrepreneur, as a businessman, you have like the money side to where, yes, you want to be able to make money, and if you see opportunity to make more money, then sure, right? But at the same time, it was something that you also knew that you could do,
Right.
because if it wasn't, then you'd be like, oh well, no, I just do video.
Yeah, because unfortunately, some people just look at the money aspect and they may jump out there a little too early. But thankfully, I was confident about my photography skills.
Yeah.
And so, being able to start doing both, and then also having team members that, I have some that are great photographers, have some that are great videographers.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to it, if it's, a client that I'm like, that I have a really strong connection with, I'll go ahead and take the photography side.
Yeah.
Because as a photographer, you're just allowed a little more access to the client, to the family, because you're doing the photos after the ceremony.
Yeah.
You're doing the stuff before, you're doing the portraits also. And so you're just engaging more. And so that's why sometimes when I actually know the client, I will go ahead and just say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do the photos for this one. And then I'll reach out
get
to
somebody to do
XYZ
video.
to do the
that's on your
video.
team. I got you.
Yep.
I got you.
Yep.
That makes sense. So, like, I want to dive into a little bit of how I met you. This your wine, by the way. Feel free to whenever you get a chance.
Yeah. I'll let you tell the quick backstory. Crazy one.
So I knew that I wanted to get engaged in a specific spot in Houston, right? And so I decided one day, hey, something just said, hey, get up and go look at the spot, make sure everything is going to be good. You can start to plan out certain things or whatever. So I went on this random day, and here I am seeing this guy that is doing a photo shoot with this beautiful young lady, and he's taking all the pictures. He's coaching her on how to pose and all that kind of stuff. And so I walk up to you and I was like, hey man, I don't mean to interrupt, but can I get a card real quick?
Yeah.
And I had never seen any of your photos. I hadn't seen any of your video. Didn't know that you were already the man. I just kind of took a leap of faith, and I struck gold with meeting you. And so I have a quick question, right? Seeing as how I met you during a photo shoot and not necessarily a wedding, right? Like, what's your favorite type of event? Which one? Do you like regular individual photo shoots, or do you prefer the weddings?
Man, that's a good question. I still appreciate weddings. I think if you really ask somebody that has done a lot of weddings, and if you try to really get that honest answer out of them, they may have some hesitation.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Because it's just a lot that comes with weddings.
Of course.
It's a lot that comes with weddings, and you have to have patience. And you just have to understand that every client is different.
Yeah.
And because if you go in there with the same mindset that you went in there with the wedding before, it's not going to be well for you mentally. Because you have to be able to adapt.
Yeah.
And everybody's different. Everybody goes about their wedding day differently. Even though there is kind of like a slight skeleton structure to most of them.
Sure.
But all the other parts to it are still different.
Yeah.
Depending on that client.
Yeah, and for my personal wedding, like I know ours was different, right? Like we didn't have a traditional venue.
Yep.
Even the reception, we made it into like a cocktail reception. And so there were a lot of things, and so the ability to have you or your vendor in general be able to adapt to what it is that you're actually looking for is key, because you can't have a cookie cutter and just say, hey, like this is the only way that I do things, because you'll ruin a lot of weddings that way.
And I can say that's a strength of mine, because I've had literally any and every kind of client, you know, with regards to culture or race or,
Yeah.
you know, whatever, and or where, you know what I'm saying, the weddings happened.
Yeah.
So, and I've been able to have that experience, be with, you know, be a part with all, you know, this day with all these different couples. And so I would like to say nothing can surprise me anymore, you
Yeah,
know, or
yeah.
that would be like, oh, damn, what do I do here
Yeah.
for this?
Yeah.
You know, so,
Now
but yeah,
that you said that your next wedding is going to be
right. Yeah,
It's
but
gonna
yeah,
be
your
fun.
wedding it wasn't the traditional style, you know, but it was beautiful and
Yeah.
it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And so that's just, you know, a testimony right there.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So you know, as we talk about like, you know, the photo shoots versus, you know, the weddings.
Okay, yeah.
My next question is like, what kind of separates those two types of photographers? Because yes, you have some people who can, you know, who explicitly do weddings. You have some people that explicitly do, you know, photo shoots, and then you have people like yourself that can do both. And so to the client out there that, you know, hey, you know, I previously did a photo shoot with this photographer and I love them and I want to hire them for my wedding, or, I've seen this person's pictures on Instagram, but I haven't seen them do any weddings. Like, what are some of the main things that kind of separate those two types of photographers? Obviously, we know, like, you know, one is in a studio, one's not. But like, what are the things that like clients should be looking out for to say like this person can actually do weddings as well?
Yeah. So a big aspect of that is time.
Okay.
And, you know, photographers that are very skilled and their strengths are portrait photography, you know, you have time. You have time to set up. You have time to set up lights.
Yeah.
You have times to figure out the location, the pose. And, you know, and it's not timely. It's not rushed. But during the wedding day, it can get crazy.
Yeah.
And
There's time.
you have very small windows
Uh-huh.
to make stuff happen. And sometimes, you know, depending on the client, some may want you to be there, you know, damn near all day, and you don't feel rushed. And then there's some that obviously their budgets are different. You may be there 4 hours, 5 hours, you know, whatever, or however they map out the day. You know, you could only be there just that long. Some people just don't have a long schedule of a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I would say, you know, like, you are in these small windows to make things happen. And so if you're not used to that, you're not used to, you know, people just around you, you know, like, what's next, you know, and then you literally have to delegate. You have to be like, all right, you know, especially after the ceremony when you're doing shots with the family.
Yeah.
You have to be
That's the time right
yeah,
there.
because literally you have whatever, how many guests in the reception waiting on you to finish with the couple and the family so the next thing can start.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah. For,
You know?
for those of you that may not, you know, truly understand like timelines or just, you know, how things kind of work, I want to break down what he's saying. So, you know, you have your ceremony, right? And then after that, you typically have some type of cocktail or social hour, right? Now, this time doesn't necessarily have to be an hour. It's completely based off of, you know, what, you know, you plan for, what you want to do. And so during this cocktail time is typically when the bride and groom or whomever the couple is taking their pictures. And I've seen a lot of these cocktail times, you know, extend way past what they're supposed to be because the photographer isn't necessarily prepared, or, you know, they're not ready to take like the shots that they need to take. And so it kind of throws off the rest of the night. And so, yeah, I mean, you have to have somebody, like you said, that is, you know, ready to, you know, move at a moment's notice, ready to be adaptable. You know, if you show up and, you know, you're expecting to take, you know, pictures with the grandparents, and then next thing you know, the grandparents are, you know, in a wheelchair or something like you have to be adaptable to, you know, all of these different things. And so it just, you know, it's one of those things that professionals are ready for. And, you know, the photographers that only do photo shoots may not be ready for.
Yeah, and that is one of those things you just have to have experience with.
Yeah.
You do. You know, because you can quickly be blindsided, you know, especially as a wedding photographer. Because, like, you know, for example, you know, a wedding can start late. Ceremony starts 30 minutes later. So the planner or that couple, they're looking to make up time somewhere.
Yeah.
And most of the time, it's during those pictures after the ceremony. And so that a lot of time may have went from an hour to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, which is unrealistic, you
Yeah.
know, but as, you know, as somebody in that position, you just try to do your best.
Yeah. You try to, adapt and be flexible and get the shots that you need to get as much as you can. Yeah. So, you know, I'm learning more about photography and videography. You know, naturally I'm a DJ, so I tell people all the time, I really don't even know how to take good selfies. But like I try my best, and you know, when I leave the professional stuff up to the professionals. And so one of the things I recently learned was just, you know, how there are different styles out there, right? When it comes to, you know, actually the video style that you create or the photo style that you kind of take, and every photographer has their own style. And, you know, couples actually look for these styles. And so when it comes to photo and or video, how would you characterize, how would you define your style of photos?
That's a good question. I think I would say my style is like, it's timeless.
Okay.
So I don't dive into the too trendy world, you know, or styles that are popular. And so that's why I feel like, you know, my style, like, you know, 20 years from now, you know, y'all can look at your photos and be like, those are still great photos. You know? So I don't try to get crazy artsy. Sometimes I do. You know? 'Cause it's nothing wrong with you trying to push your creative boundary, and it's nothing wrong with just trying to give something to them that they unexpected, you know, that they didn't expect from you. And sometimes, you know, most of the time they're like, this came out really dope. You know? But at the end of the day, I would say my style is timeless.
I will say for, you know, and I'm still learning technology, so I don't know if I can put up like our pictures on the video. Maybe I'll try. Well, I'll figure it out. But like, you made downtown, like dirty downtown Houston, look like the most amazing like backdrop to the photos ever. And so, you know, anytime we pull out the photos and we take a look, and it's like, man, like those are incredible. You know what I mean? So I get what you're saying about those timeless photos, because you see the trends and stuff online, and it's like, man, like, okay, like if you go for that, will you still be happy with that 5 years from now, or will you still be okay with that 10 years from now?
Exactly, they're cool now.
And I think about that even with like, you know, what you wear, like what you know, the dress you pick, the suit.
Facts.
You know, like, are you going to be okay with that style, you know, down the line? Are you going to be like, oh man, that's what we wore in the 2000s? Like the tall tees, like, is that what we were wearing? You know, so I totally get you. So I have another question. And you talked about time. And so my question in relation to time is like, what is the minimum amount of time that a couple should book a photographer for a wedding? And I ask that because, you know, obviously, you know, we have all different types of events now. You know, you have the boutique or mini weddings that, you know, are only an hour long, you know, max like 50 people or whatever. So I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about, you know, your standard 5-6 hour wedding. You know, you have ceremony, cocktail hour, and reception.
Yeah.
But what I've started to see is like, you know, for a lot of the events that I do, sometimes the photographers don't stay till the very end,
Yeah.
you know, to catch those grand exit shots, or, you know, maybe they don't even start like, you know, with pre-ceremony shots. They start right when the ceremony is starting. So what is the minimum amount of time that somebody should be hiring a photographer, you know, no matter what their decision is, if it's based off of budget, whatever, like, what is that minimum amount of time?
Yeah, I would say the best amount of time to me is usually 6 hours.
Okay.
And I feel like it's doable for both parties most of the time, because traditionally you have like a ceremony that starts at 5, reception starts at 7, and so if the photographer gets there at 4, an hour before the ceremony starts, and stays till 10, 9 times out of 10 you kind of get everything you need.
You can get what you need. Yeah.
Yep. And so you get your pre-shots, you get the ceremony, you get the portraits and the family shots after.
Yeah.
And then you have 3 hours to work with the reception. And so, you know, the entrance, the dances, the cake cutting,
Yeah.
toast, you know, the bouquet toss if they do that. Will you get the exit? Maybe not.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
And that's even based off of your timeline, right? Because if you are deciding, hey, I'm gonna do the 6 hours for my photographer instead of, you know, 8 or 9 or whatever, then you also have to kind of base your timeline off of that, right?
yeah.
And so
because not to cut you off,
Go
but
ahead.
like some clients or some couples actually plan an exit like earlier.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
because.
doing the faux exit.
Yeah. Which it's fine. I understand people do it to, you know, to get all the shots they wanted. But most of the time I do see it hurting the actual attendance.
I can tell you as a DJ,
Yeah.
faux exits are not my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Because typically what happens is you have, you know, the start of the reception, and you'll do your, you know, entrances, and you'll do your special dances. And so I personally don't care where your special dances are, you know, whether it's, you know, first dance, father and bride, mother and groom. I like to do them towards the beginning, but I mean, you know, if we do them after dinner, it's totally fine. I'm cool with either way.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you only have your photographer for so long, then that means that for sure we're doing them, you know, in the beginning. And depending on the time of your wedding, you know, people start to get hungry. You know, if you like push everything up. So now we got these dances. Okay, we got to wait. Each song is 3 to 4 minutes. So we got to wait until you're done with your dances. Then we start to finally eat. And then we're going to do toast real quick. We're going to do cake real quick. We're going to try to knock out all of this stuff. And then we're going to do this faux exit. Well, here I am, a guest at your wedding. And I'm tired. I ate dinner late. Like, I already came and I said hello. You saw my
Right.
face.
I got my picture.
So when we go outside and we pretend like we're going to leave, I'm really going to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, it happens like almost every time. Like, you know, we have a faux exit, and then, you know, when they come back in, it's like 50% is left.
Yep.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you know, the people that I thought I was hoping, hey, she looked like she was gonna have some fun. Like, what? They're gone. So I get it. What is that sweet spot? So if that's the minimum, if 6 hours is the minimum,
Yeah.
what is that average amount of time to where you can make sure, hey, we're good. We hired the
Yeah.
photographer for the full amount of time. What's that full amount of time?
Man, it's a long day for us, but 8 hours is, you know, because usually you can add another hour or 30 minutes or so for those pre-shots.
Yeah.
So that it gives you about an hour and a half or 2 hours before the wedding starts. And that just allows, me to not rush and get those pre-shots.
Yeah.
It allows me to take the groom and the groomsmen somewhere else, and take time and do some good photos instead of, all right, let's get you getting your tux on. All right, cool, got it. Let me go over here. Let me go to the bride. Let me get her getting her dress on.
Yeah.
And so if you do have that extra time, if the bride is able to get her dress on a little earlier, then maybe we can sneak and get some extra photos in before, that maybe doesn't have to be in that room that she's getting ready in.
Yeah.
Maybe we can find another place nearby, get some really good photos in just the dress, just her alone, before the actual wedding starts.
Yeah.
And then you have that extra hour to be there for the reception, and you get that genuine exit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you don't have
Absolutely.
you don't have to do a pre-planned exit.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For weddings, I mean, faux exits, like, if you choose to do it, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, so anybody out there that's had a faux exit or wants to do one, it's fine. I just like to let you know, like, hey, you may lose some of your guests, so it's not my favorite.
Yep.
But you talked about the time, you talked about the long day, and so I want to get into this segment that I have. It's called Hot Topics.
Okay.
Right? And so we kind of talk about different things that are happening in the wedding industry. And this one directly relates to a wedding photographer. I forgot where she was, but she kind of went viral online for her post. And so I want to read this one. And so it's wedding photographer Megan Claire recently shared a video where she was forced to eat with her bare hands on the floor because a venue failed to provide her with an eating location or utensils, sparking into a debate of whether or not this is even a problem. So there was a video going around, and she kind of posted it on TikTok or whatever, and she was just, the venue, they provided her a meal, but it was just like, she didn't have anything to eat with. There was no place to actually sit. So she just found a spot on the floor and just started eating with her bare hands. And it's not like a burger. It's like broccoli. And you know what I mean? So people start commenting on this.
Gotcha.
And the comments were, you're not a guest. You're the help. Somebody else said, you're not a guest of the wedding. You're already paid the big money to be there. At any other job, you should bring your own lunch to work and, take care of yourself. And so, I thought this was very interesting because I remember that, going to my first weddings, and I was like, oh my gosh, I actually get to eat dinner here, and this is amazing. And then I started thinking about it. It's like, okay, well, it makes sense because I'm here for 1 billion hours. I might, I'm here during dinner time.
Yeah.
It's common courtesy to, feed your guests or whatever. And, obviously they're talking about online. You're not the guest. I get it. But, I also remember the first wedding to where, I didn't get food. And it really affected how I DJ'd for the rest of the night.
I bet.
Because you're there for 6 hours during the time to where you would normally, be getting ready to eat, and now you're starting to get a headache because you're hungry and you're trying to focus, but only thing that's on your stomach is water, and it's crazy. So my question to you is, kind of based on this hot topic, what do you feel like is the couple's requirements, or what do you feel like they are responsible for when it comes to the working conditions in general of all of their vendors?
So, man, my initial thoughts were every couple is different. And this is where, kind of that experience and just understanding that accommodations are going to be different. So you may have a couple that, make sure you eat. They will come to you and be like, did you eat?
Yeah.
Multiple times.
I like those couples.
Right. And then if you say you haven't, they waving
Yeah.
down the the coordinator or whoever to make sure you have some food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you have some people that don't. They may have a buffet style, or they may have people bringing out the meals. And I've learned it's kind of on you. You got to figure it out. And not to say they don't have food for you. I'm sure they planned it, but obviously the wedding day, it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
so I learned to not hold that against the couple. And I just kind of took it upon myself that, okay, I see these people bringing out the food. I just got to, either go to the coordinator or maybe go to one of the lead staff that's at that venue and, say, hey, I need a plate, or me and my, colleague needs a plate.
Yeah.
And most of the time they have
Not
no
an issue at
problem.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have no problem going to get it. And same thing with the utensils.
I read that and I saw her and I was
And that's
like,
honestly, that's always, I'm not gonna lie, that's always pretty much the struggle for me. Because they always have the food there,
yeah,
and they have the utensils at the
they're
tables.
on the table. Yeah,
but
yeah.
all those spots are filled at the
Of
table.
course.
So now you're left trying to scrap up a
Yeah.
fork or a knife.
Yeah, you gotta go ask the caterers, and they gotta
Yep.
figure out where they put it, what bag is it in, what box, whatever. And so yeah, it's interesting to me because I read this and I saw this, and at first I was like, oh man, like that sucks. It's terrible working conditions. And
Yeah.
then I was like, well, why did she film this video instead of just going to ask ask them for utensils? And so I know for certain people, certain vendors, they've started to put certain things in their contracts, just all kind of related to working conditions, whether it's food or whether it's, guest or, any of those types of things. And I know for photographers, probably, outside of you all, planners and photographers probably work the longest days.
Yeah.
Because you all are pretty much there from start to finish. I come in at a certain amount of time to set up, but as far as like my service time, it's
Yeah.
that 5 to 6 hours.
Yeah.
But you all show up, you're taking pictures, and so you're there for a really long time. And so I think that to the couples out there, while you're hiring people, and unfortunately some people just look at it like, oh, you're the help, I'm paying you the big bucks. Well, it's like, yeah, you are hiring, somebody to provide a service, but at the same time, it is still the person, right? Like, and you want to make sure that you're treating that person with kindness, and putting them in the best working conditions so they can give you the best product that you want. And so even if you say, hey, like, we can't, afford to add on an additional plate with the caterer or whatever the case is, like, you also need to make sure that, like, okay, like, we can't do this, but we're going to allow you to have that 30 minutes for your own, so you can bring your own lunch or your own dinner or whatever, and just have that communication.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because the first time I was at a wedding in Dallas, and that was the first time I didn't get the food that everyone else got.
Yeah.
And they had a lavish spread, like crab legs,
Yeah.
like the king crab legs.
Okay. Yeah.
So the ones that have the little spikes on it. So, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait, And then here comes the coordinator. Hey guys, I got your dinner right here.
Yeah.
It's literally a box lunch. Like literally sandwich, chips.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, damn.
Yeah. It happened to me one time, and I don't know it to this day. Like, I don't know if it was like because some caterers are tied into venues, and so I don't know if it was like a venue decision or like what. But I remember, like, they had like these 6-foot tables, and it was like multiple 6-foot tables in a row, and like every table like covered in food. It all looked beautiful.
Man.
Like, and this particular wedding, like, I hopped in line at the end.
Yeah.
Right. So there's like tons and tons and tons of food left. and it's like they had like 3 different types of meats and all. Like it's just like all of the food in the world.
Oh, yeah.
I hop in line. At the end, I'm talking to somebody. Hey, how's it going? You enjoy yourself? Blah blah blah. And then I get this like tap on my shoulder. It's like, hey, we have your food over there. So I'm like, okay, cool, great.
Oh, they already made me a plate.
Yeah, they already know what I like. Cool. And then so I go and it's like, oh, here's your cold sandwich, and I'm like, on the one hand, it's like, yes, I am absolutely appreciative. I'm
Right.
hungry. I've been working forever or whatever, but I know for me, and I guess how I was raised, there's no way that like I'm about to, chow down on this steak and then
Right.
say, hey, you hungry?
Exactly.
Like, let me give you this sandwich and chips. So yeah, that was an experience to me. But I mean, nevertheless,
Right.
food, you just want to make sure that you're treating your vendors well so that they can, come out with the best products. So
Yeah, I mean, because I'll be honest, it's crazy. I actually had a destination wedding,
Okay.
and the coordinator even told me, she was like, I don't know if we have food for you. And I said, oh, you have food for me. I was like, because I've been working since 11 a.m.
Yeah, I flew out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna ask somebody else then, because there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, kind of getting back to the photography and the videography. You've been, in this industry for years now, and you like you talked about earlier, you've been progressing and getting better and better, and just like all of us, that is how you've been able to grow your business into what it is today, right?
Yeah.
So, thinking back, like, what is the most unique wedding that you've ever done? And like, what advice would you have for those couples out there that like want to make their wedding unique? Like, what are those things that they can do, whether it is like photography wise or even decoration wise, to like get those unique experiences or those unique shots?
Well, to answer the first one, man, I think the most unique wedding that comes to mind automatically is it was a extremely young couple. I believe it was a gypsy. They were gypsies, and it was a gypsy wedding.
Okay.
And man, they had to at least spend probably 200 grand or more on the wedding.
Yeah.
They had like 8 ice sculptures.
Wow.
They had a dance floor, and like in the dance floor were rose petals underneath the dance floor. They had the food was crazy. They had like all these seafood towers literally at all the tables.
Yeah.
They had literally like whole pigs that
Wow.
were like, cooked or whatever.
Yeah.
The theme of it was New York. So they had like these skyline, skyline props that look like big buildings.
Yeah.
They even had desserts and bakery goods that were flown in from New York.
Oh wow, that's crazy. Was it in like a hotel, or was it?
It was in a
wedding
hotel.
venue? Okay.
Yeah, it was in a hotel.
Yeah.
I guess at the biggest space at this
Yeah.
Marriott.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, it was nuts. It was nuts. And I want to say the guests there, they had these bags. They were Hermes bags. And I want to say the guests actually got a Hermes bag with whatever was in there.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
So, yeah, hands down, that wedding like gets the cake for sure. So, and speaking of the cake, like the cake was like 6 or 7 layers.
Yeah.
I mean, at least maybe like 5-6 feet tall. Yeah. So,
That's insane.
yeah, it was nuts.
I would have definitely been the person that would have said, "Hey, Tom isn't in that seat. Tom isn't there. You know, hey, there's that bag. What we doing with that bag? we taking that bag? Are we taking it back? Tom didn't show up. Like,
Yeah.
I'm here. That's insane. That's insane. So I mean, obviously, it was, you know, the decorations, the money spent, you know, that made that wedding super crazy, and I'm sure you got like amazing shots there.
Yeah.
Like, for the person that doesn't have that type of budget,
Right.
what are some
can
things
they-
that they can do to kind of make their wedding, like they have, you know, the regular wedding venue, which, you know, there's no such thing as a regular wedding venue, but you get what I'm saying. Like, they have the wedding venue that isn't $1 billion. They have, you know, the decorations, the flowers, all of that kind of stuff that you know, looks good. How can they make their wedding unique?
I always love when couples add just a personal touch from them. You
Okay.
know, I always enjoy that when you can, you know, you can just tell, like, you know, okay, that was, you know, that was nice. That was something that they clearly included on their own. You know, whether it's some kind of decorations of them, you know, personalized
Yeah.
things, you know, even some kind of theme along with the wedding is always nice. You know, but just because, you know, like, you know, people go to other weddings.
Sure.
You know, and, you know, obviously we, you know, cover a lot of different weddings. So even just as aesthetics, you know, that always, you know, helps, and it makes it memorable.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I definitely tried to add different things to our wedding that would kind of stand out. And I think I had the benefit of, you know, I go to so many, right? And so one of those things that I saw at a wedding that I DJ'd at was they had an artist kind of paint a picture of, you know, the bride and groom for this particular wedding, and they painted the dog in there, and, you know, they kind of used that as their guest book. And so I was like, oh, I'm taking that one.
Yeah.
I'm taking that one. And, you know, she, of course, she loves her dog, and, you know, I
Yeah.
love my dog. And so, you know, we you know, did the same thing, and that was a nice little surprise for
That
her. And
was.
so it was dope to, you know, see the photos of it, and to, you know, have it as a memory even to this day. So yeah,
that was
I
a good
enjoyed
touch.
it. So, man, I appreciate you, man, for coming through and
Absolutely.
blessing us here on the couch. You got to tell them, where can they find you? Give them the socials, give them the, you know, website, give them everything.
Gotcha.
Let them know where they can find you.
So again, I'm Corey Hanks. You can find me obviously on Instagram at stand_by_productions. So yeah, the Instagram is a great place to check out some of our recent work, as well as, you know, if you want to reach out to me on there, you can. And then also my website, standbypro.com. So, Yep, on Facebook as well. So yeah, man, those are all my socials. That's all my credentials right there.
Cool. Well, yeah, man. I can't thank you enough for coming by and dropping those gems, man. I'm sure there were definitely people that were, you know, helped, and then they're gonna, you know, save money and know what to look for and all of those different things by the advice that you gave. So
Awesome.
I appreciate it, man. This has been another episode of the Weddings and Wine podcast, man. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and cheers.
You be tripping on the time we'll spend. I pull up and gotta slide once again. You signed up, said you ride to the end, but you don't wanna be alone. If it's something on your mind,